I might have screwed that up a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Universal Lens. I am your co-host, John Emilio.
Buenos días, John Emilio.
How are you, bud?
Yo estoy bien. I am your other co-host, Henry Beltra.
And it's Henry Beltra.
Glad to be with you, as always.
Same. I'm glad to be here too.
Oh yeah.
Happy Father's Day, by the way.
Hey,
Today
happy
is
Father's Day.
We're recording on Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. Happy Boomba Clot Father's Day.
we were talking about Muji. He was a spiritual teacher, and I believe he's got some Jamaican background. And Henry went into his he went all out into a Jamaican accent before the show.
Yeah,
and it's hanging around a little bit still. I don't think he showed it yet.
Ja has enlightened me.
I had no idea who Ja was. The only Ja I knew was Ja. There's a basketball player. The guy who
get with the program.
Yeah,
you got to know who Ja is.
No.
Yeah, and you got to know the
why Ja? Why J-A? Ja, just Ja?
I don't know.
Are they like Christian? I guess would they be Christian? I don't know. Like Jesus? Is that just short for Jesus? I don't know. I'm not Jamaican.
I don't know. I left Jamaica when I was 7. So I didn't. Yeah.
Wow, Cuban, Spanish, Jamaican.
Yeah.
Where else are you from?
Well, I had to cut my hair because it was just in the way, and
cornrows were in the way.
Very difficult to have the chin braids. It's too much. It was in my face. It's too much.
It would be a good look for you, actually.
Yeah, many times I was lighting my spliff, and I would light my hair by mistake. I'll forget.
By mistake, you light your hair and you smoke that.
Trust me. Once you're 3 spliffs in, you start grabbing your hair. They're like, "No, it's not a good idea.
Gotcha.
Not a good idea."
Oh, capito.
Nothing, my brother. We're doing all right. This happy Father's Day.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good day.
Try to enjoy Father's Day.
Got some baseball action today. Got some probably some brother-in-law maybe.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to my parents' house later, which would be nice. Hanging out with the old man.
John, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Let me see if you can help me out with this. All right. So you're new to this. Let's say somebody's new to this. Somebody's caught on. They love what we talk about. They want to try out our ways, right? They want to, start meditating, getting in touch with, their real mind. Let's say the driver of the mind, let's say.
Yeah.
But what if you find that you're the only person in your circle of life and family, friends, work? What if you find out that like you're the only person really trying to do this, to improve yourself in this way, or just to kind of help yourself through these anxiety or whatever it is, depression, whatever it is that you're trying to better. And you go home and there's nobody who really follows what you follow, or let's say even cares about what you're doing. Then you go to work and it's the blind always, the unconscious, let's say. And everywhere you go, it's unconscious. So do you think that somebody can get dissuaded, or somebody can get like, I'm going to use the term incorrectly, but like beaten down, where.
Yeah. Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm going to be honest, like that even happens to me, So aside from you, think about it. In my life, I go home. It's not like people are following
this
me,
is something that they're practicing daily or do.
And I try to always remember what you always say, where be a mirror and be let's say a guidepost.
Yeah.
And I try to be, I'm also human too, in the sense that I'm not completely focused every day, but I have it. Like I'm already constantly always trying to, not, for example, here's a good one. If something would have triggered an unconscious response from me or a reply, nowadays it's a thought, it's a small thought, it's a little interval of thought process, which says, would that stupid remark be called for here. Whereas my old remark would have been a stupid remark, and it just would have been for naught. You know, it would have been
For,
for naught, for stupidity,
gotcha.
just to get a laugh or just for stupidity.
Yep,
So like
gotcha.
there is a consciousness that I'm trying to exercise, and there's a betterment of myself that I'm trying to, you know, let's say go with, and nobody is following me. Nobody in my house, in my work circle of friends, aside from you, it's not something that's really taking hold of. Well, it is slowly, but just I guess if I'm one of those people that nobody around me is following me, or let's say with me, or on the same or a similar path,
Mhm.
you get kind of dissuaded, and everybody kind of looks at you like, like, all right, bro, like,
So this is a very excuse me. Oh, sorry. This is a very common question.
is it?
Yeah, a lot of people, when they kind of get started on this journey, a lot of the like chats and groups that I was part of, especially in the beginning, because I had the same kind of thing happen with me. I would, I went into these kind of, and these were rooms and groups specifically for like Eckhart Tolle groups. So just everybody who you were speaking with was on the same path as you at this point. And it was a very popular question where people would ask and they would feel like they're disconnected from their families. They're disconnected from their friends. They're disconnected from a lot of people around them because they have shifted perspectives in the way that they look at life and the way that they approach everyday conversation. And that's the biggest one is everyday conversation changes, especially in the beginning a lot, because you're so detached from the old way of thinking and that unconscious thinking that even, everyday conversations, I wouldn't take a stance in. I wouldn't let my ego complain about something. And I had a harder time, excuse me, being a part of these conversations with people. So it wasn't frustration, but it was a feeling of, and I think this is where you're coming from, where you're like, do I start not becoming unconscious again, but do I start kind of pausing my awakening or my progress to stay connected with these people? And it wasn't until probably 70 months ago. I mean, I would struggle with the same thing till I realized that there was a happy medium in between where I can, and this isn't to sound like I'm better and I'm above people. That's not what we're trying to say. Where I found how I could re-engage with the everyday conversation, but have that conversation from a conscious point of view. I could re-engage with the people, even if they were kind of acting unconsciously or thinking unconsciously or not into what I was doing, but I could bring that kind of consciousness back into the conversation, but still take part in it. You really don't. If you're thinking that you're getting dissuaded, that's your mind creating a story to why things aren't the way you want them to be. And all that is, it's coming in the back door now, your mind and starting to question what you're doing. But what you're doing is nothing more than just watching. But now another story's come up. So maybe some of the old stories died down in your mind and they're not as important. Like you're able, like you said before, to disconnect from them fairly quickly. But now this new one came up. Well, now I can't communicate with anybody. And your mind buys into this and it's going to start questioning it. It's going to start making you feel like you are separate from people. And listen, there is a certain level of maybe some relationships do kind of get slightly severed, but they're only because and it's going to be with people who really aren't part of your life, like close friends, close family, like people who know what you're kind of doing and they love you. Listen, this is your path. This is great. It's fine. Even if I'm not on it right now, that's great. That's fine. It's more the people who maybe you don't talk to as often. You only have one or two things in common with, and it might have been a baseball thing for you, right? Where maybe some of those parents, maybe you feel like you're a little disconnected from them. I'm not saying you are, but maybe you feel like you're a little disconnected from them because I just see life differently now than, and we don't talk enough. We're not close enough. So I don't think you see yourself getting dissuaded. I think what you're noticing is the difference between a person who looks at life through the eyes of a conscious mind, meaning they're actually watching these things happen. They're watching their thoughts. They're watching their emotions, to the person who just engages everything. And when you're home, listen, when I'm around people who like you, right, who kind of understands and we speak the same language, or Michael Lacosta, when we had him on, and the first thing we said was when I mentioned his name, Monk's Mind, and he goes, the universal lens. He goes, we're speaking the same language. Yeah, it's great, right? It's always nice to be in that community, in that group with people who are on that same path as you. But that doesn't mean that just because somebody's unconscious. And I thought for a certain point, I thought, well, I'm just going to lose this person in my life at some point because there's no happy median, until I realized, wait, I'm just allowing my mind to come back in and tell me I can't be friends with this person because they don't see life like me. I don't have to be unconscious in the conversation with them. I can be conscious. And if that person's somebody who really, by the way, cares about you and is connected to you on a certain level, that's not going to go away. It's not going to go away. But the dissuaded from continuing is because you have a yearning. There's a yearning in your mind to want to be connected to that unconscious mind of the other person and engage in those conversations and engage in that behavior and engage in that way of thinking because it feels comfortable for your mind to do that. Meanwhile, the conscious mind, the person, the being that has now, realized that there's something above this thinking thing in our heads, doesn't need to engage in that. It just wants to watch everything. But what happening is your mind is actually trying to pull you kind of back and be like, hey, don't we just want to be like in with everybody again and talking with everybody again? Mm-hmm. Then when you're in the 10 minutes, you know what happens? A conversation comes up and you start to get charged egoically about it or emotionally about it. And right away, you go like, right away, that awareness comes in and goes, we don't enjoy this. This isn't what, like, I don't like this feeling. Like, it's foreign. It's negative. I don't want to be here. And you pull back from it. So now it's about finding that engaging in a conversation consciously, but not going to the point where you become like this egoic person and you're spewing again like a lot of people do. I don't know if that made sense, but
yes, it does. Yeah. I think what you're describing is a skill that comes with some time. It's a skill.
No. Yeah, yes and no. So it's not a skill. It's something that everybody has. It's about realizing that it's there and then holding it holding that presence. It's learning how to hold the presence.
John, look, it's like this. So I think anybody embarking on this, journey has to be careful. And I'm going to tell you my biggest pitfalls or my biggest, let's say, entries into the wrong wolf, feeding the wrong wolf.
Yep, gotcha.
Is complaining and gossiping.
Oh, yeah, like, we talked about that in episode 3 or 4, I think.
Right. So those two are big.
Sure.
You're going to realize just how many of your relationships are based on complaining or gossiping.
A lot of people I don't talk to anymore because of that. Not in a bad way, but just
correct. Not in a bad way. Not. Yeah. Like one of the things that we gotta, let's say, curtail or just be weary of is be careful with is how much we complain and how much we gossip. Like it's something that, if you really want to improve, you really want to make some sort of a difference. It's a real fast track into mindfulness is
sure. No
complaining, no gossiping. And it's tough because like you realize, you're at home and a simple conversation with your wife could be, hey, did you see did what you see
the news, whatever, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, the news is like, at least you could say the news is, let's say, external, and you could say it's, far away,
I got you.
But like, there's like something close. Did you see whatever? Let's say you went to high school with somebody, and in the case of me and my wife, we went to high school together. So hey, did you see that person went to high school with? They got cancer and they passed away. And did you see that? Whatever the storyline is, right? Gotcha. Whatever
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You like when I say you, I mean, I could find myself. You slip right in, you slip on the banana peel. And before you know it, if you're not active, like really have it on, you're gonna slip in and go, "Oh my God, yeah!" But like, and you see what she was telling her, you know,
Yeah, I look.
you get caught up.
I think it depends on the conversation, and this is kind of a. It's almost like the art of it, right? That's almost like an art to that part of it, where you learn how to converse consciously again. So I mean, it depends on the conversation, I would say, right? So somebody who is, like you just said that story, right?
It's a make story.
Yeah, yeah, it's a made up story, but you said that story, like something like that. Oh, did you hear about that? That's not gossiping, right? That's you're actually speaking of, hey, did you hear about so and so? She's sick or he's sick or this happened to them, unfortunately. Is there anything we could do for them right now? Do you think we should send them a basket? Do you think that's not gossiping? It's, did you hear what happened to blah, blah, blah at the meeting last night? She went, and the conversation starts becoming something different. Now it's gossip. Gossip isn't, hey, I'm going to tell you a fact about something about a dear friend of ours, or here's this piece of information or this fact that's going to be helpful. Maybe we could do something about it. To, did you hear the story about what happened at the Monroe Township Board of Ed meeting? Right? It's always been a big one. We live in Monroe Township, New Jersey. And I'm like, and that becomes gossip. He said, she said, they're on this aisle, they're on that side of the aisle. Those are the conversations I don't get involved in. But like you said before, hey, did you hear what happened to, blah, blah, blah's
Yeah,
mom? She got sick. She was in an accident. Oh my God, are they okay? Do they need anything? Is there anything we could do? That's different, right? And I think that's where you kind of learn to draw where the line is to where you engage consciously into that conversation because there's something you could do, to where somebody just wants to gossip because they want to tell a story that they don't even know if it's factual or not. They're projecting what this person might have been thinking while they were complaining about something or doing something else. And those are the stories. And unfortunately, I realized, like you said before, that was 85 to 90% of the conversations we used to have. And to this day, still most people around me, that's still 85 to 90% of the conversation. There's always a complaining or a gossiping flair on most stories or most conversations. And I would get this answer. So, and we said this in previous episodes. The most common answer I would always get was, but what are we going to talk about then? And I would look at them and go, so we're going to complain and gossip in lieu of silence. So we're actually going to charge ourselves up. Oh, but this is fun. And going, there is the disease. That's the disease itself. When we think that complaining and gossiping is fun, that's the attachment to this thing in our head that needs to keep chewing on something and then dredging up emotions, dredging up feelings, getting your ego going, leaving you with that bitter taste in your mouth after the conversation's over, because who wins that conversation? It's a rabbit hole that why would you want to go down? So there's a little bit of an art to it. So I don't think it's about getting dissuaded from continuing your path. I think your mind, your spiritual mind, is actually getting frustrated that nobody's listening and that people aren't able to see where you want to come from. And that's just the ego coming back in and putting a mask on of Eckhart Tolle and going, no, but we're spiritual. Why aren't you listening to me? It's all it's doing. It's doing nothing. Anytime it's a thought, it's the mind. Always remember that. Anytime it's a thought, it's the mind. Your essence, your presence, your awareness does not it's not going to give you a thought. Insights are different, but it's not going to give you a thought. An insight is something you see and but you don't question it. You don't have a story around it, right? Whenever you have a thought, well, why isn't she listening? Why are my kids listening to me? Why isn't my son listening to me? Why doesn't my wife get it? Why don't my parents get it? Why doesn't this one get it? That's just the mind coming back in and complaining, basically.
okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
it's so easy to
yeah.
to slip on the banana peel.
Sure it is.
You know,
Absolutely, it is.
like here's let's say if it's with your wife, and I have to make up stories here, but whatever. Here's another made up story. So, did you see on Facebook, this so and so person is no longer married, and they were with somebody else. They're with the new girlfriend, and let's say you want to keep, a conscious mind
Conscious
and
mind.
not slip into the slip into banana peel. So you say, hey, listen, things happen, let's say you respond like things happen. And then you and your wife have nothing further to, rag about. you know?
Yeah, but is that on you? Is so I'm gonna another as if, right? Another example. Is that on you, bud, or is that on that person? So
Yeah,
should
yeah,
you
yeah.
so should you dim your and not to use big heady words, but should you dim your consciousness, your awareness? Should you turn that light down just so you can have a conversation that, by the way, you don't want to engage in? At
Yeah,
a higher level, you don't want to engage in that. So I had the same problem. I'll be honest.
I
To- to-
remember.
total transparency. And you could even ask my wife when you see her upstairs after we're done. In the beginning, that's the way it was. My wife would say something because she would just have a normal conversation. Hey, did you hear about this? A lot of times I would look at her and go, yeah. And like that was it. And it was uncomfortable for me to do that because there was a part of me, like you said, that wanted to be like, okay, you got to fucking say something, dude. You can't just say, yeah. So I'd be like, yeah, that's a shame. Is what it is. Unfortunately, something, it's out of our control. With time, and I'm not saying like I did something to my wife, but with time, I don't know, maybe being around me, maybe because I do being a mirror for her or for people around me, I see it with people very close to me. Those conversations stop because, and we said this before, they started noticing that, hey, I'm not getting anything from it. Like my ego isn't getting any, I'm like, he's not feeding me. That wolf isn't feeding this wolf. And they stopped with that. You're worried that you're going to have nothing to talk about. But unfortunately, until you go through that period, you don't get to come out the other side of that where the other person starts to play catch up with you.
That
And they
that
start to realize that if you want that person to, like, because I'm not engaging, you got to understand it. That's just the mind coming back in and go, why aren't you getting this? Remember where you were in day one, right? And how you would slip in the beginning, the same way I would slip. And I still to this day, because I'm
yeah,
human. But with a little bit of clock time, the more you sharpen that awareness and you hold that awareness, the easier it becomes to be there because now there's something inside of you that wants to stay on that side. And just watch what's happening on this side and engage it when it needs to, but it wants to stay on that side as much as possible, even though the mind keeps pulling, the mind's going to keep pulling you back in psychologically. It's just what it's going to always do, no matter. Any spiritual teacher will tell you the same thing. Your mind it's not going to go silent for 20 years on you where it's only going to bark when you want it to bark. It's going to bark all the time. You're only going to pay attention to that barking when it's necessary to. And that's it. Give that person a chance to see their reflection and they'll start to realize that these conversations are pointless eventually, that it brings up they'll notice how it makes them feel. And that's the key. Like once that person realizes how it makes them feel and you're like, yeah, it's really like, what benefit is there? And they're like, oh, and they start saying it's not even worth it. Now you start to realize, okay, well, their tone is changing a little bit. Now they're starting to realize that these complaining, gossipy conversations don't go nowhere and they're losing interest in doing that. And they're starting to see things differently. And then you start, little by little, I think they catch up. But remember, everybody's different. We're all human beings. So we're all going to have different, even the way we practice or approach things is always going to be a little bit differently, even if that person's going to be on the same path as you eventually. So, yeah, a little bit of patience there. You're not disconnecting from the person.
no.
It feels like it, but
Yeah, it's just I think you mentioned it. You said it like first of all, your advice is fantastic because obviously you've been here. You've been exactly here, and it's
experience.
It's that it's that middle period. It's that period where you begin, and all of a sudden people are noticing, and then let's say the old conversations can't continue as they would because you're no longer plugging in, or they can't plug into you, let's say. Exactly. So there's that middle period that you said, just stay with it and then you'll be a mirror. Eventually the mirror is just going to be so in front of the other person that you might start affecting change in the other person.
Remember that you can't control if that person does see that reflection or want to see that reflection. That's not our control. So we can't control I have people who they still to this day, they don't want to see the reflection. and that's their choice. It's not my choice. It's their choice. And you can't nourish, look, you can't nourish a relationship with somebody if that person doesn't, if that person cares about you enough and loves you enough, quote unquote, and they want to be in your life, they're going to accept you the way you are, the same way you're going to accept them for what they are. You don't love somebody because Sadhguru once said, you don't love people because they do what you want that they do what you want them to do. You love someone because if you love someone, you allow them to do what they want to do. In other words, their lives aren't to be led to make us happy. Their lives are to be led to the way they want to lead their lives. But if we care about you, we're going to support you. We're going to stand by you. Even if I'm a conscious, aware individual and I have the spiritual presence and I look at life differently and you're not, you're a little bit, maybe you're kind of trying to, but you pull back in. But as long as you're still a good person, I mean, at the end of the day, I love you anyway, and that's fine. I think there was a need in our minds in the beginning for everybody to, why aren't you doing this? This is great. Like, this is awesome. Why aren't you getting this? Come on, let's go. Get on board. And you start to get turned off from from conversations with that person then because they're not getting it. But like I said, there's going to be people who are just so close to you. Doesn't matter. This won't affect that. It might affect the conversations, and that's fine. I mean, your choice is to engage in it. Your choice is not to engage in it. Same way they can. Or they, like if I start talking about, Eckhart Tolle or Sadhguru or Muji or Maharashi or somebody else, my kids will look at me like they'll give me that look. That okay, whatever. Like they don't want to hear that. But there are other things where we can meet in the middle and have that conversation. So you kind of, you play a little of it's almost like not a game, but you kind of ebb and flow with them, and you find that middle ground with people. If that person's close enough to you and you care about them, that middle ground is found between, somebody who's unconscious, as again, different levels of it. Unconscious toxic is different than unconscious. I like to gossip and complain and watch Facebook and Google and all that stuff and Channel 4 News and Fox and CNN. All right, that's media's in your head kind of unconscious, but then toxic unconscious, I beat you, I gaslight you, I treat you like shit. Well, that's a different one, right? So that's the one that, peace out, have a nice life. And the other one is, okay, they're still in their heads. That's still important. All that stuff they're identified with all that media and social media and gossiping, complaining, makes them feel like they're engaged in something. And that's on them to realize if it's worth it or not someday.
Yeah, I think there's a biological, let's say, root to that relationship in the first place. Okay, so like I think like the biological root is like, as humans, we tend to chase dopamine without knowing it.
Sure, we do.
And a conversation like that, although it's a negative, let's say, connotation because you're gossiping or you're complaining, but it's bonding you to the other human. And like that mutual complaining or that mutual gossiping, although it's a negative, let's say, act on everything, everything that's, yourself, universe, everything, it's bonding you to that human, it's giving you dopamine, and both of you are liking it. Both of you are enjoying that experience. But what none of you are realizing is that it's just negativity. You can have that same bonding, you can have that same dopamine, and you could flip the pancake and like have positivity, not just negativity. Like if the only time we talk is to gossip or to complain, that's a hard.
A lot of relationships are like that, but a lot of relationships like that they're just based on complaining and gossiping and and all that other negative stuff, like you said. But it doesn't have to be that way. But it's a choice that person has to make if they want to flip that script or not, right? I mean, and I think that dopamine that you were talking about, and we've said this before in the show plenty of times, that dopamine fix it's a thing. It's not like, we're not making this shit up. It's a thing. Like the same way you get addicted to, this isn't coffee, it's tea, but the same way you get addicted to caffeine or you get addicted to soda, or you get addicted to junk food, or you get addicted to cigarettes, or you get addicted to alcohol or drugs. You get addicted to a feeling your mind gives you. Okay, my mind has to, I feel good when I buy something. So I'm going to just keep buying. Those are people who just spend out of control. No. I feel good when I'm around this person, and I need to be around these people. I can't be by myself. Only if I'm around people, my mind is happy, because your mind's giving you a little bit of a dopamine. Hey, when I'm here, I'm happy. And the mind goes, here you go. Here's a piece of candy. When I complain and we gossip, I'm temporarily happy. I like it. I feel like I'm engaged in something. Here's some candy. But once that conversation's gone, usually you're left feeling empty. If there's no, the beauty of this, the problem with those conversations is there's no substance to them. Once they're done, okay, now what? So you complained, you gossiped, we made some stories up, we talked about a million as if situations, or what if, or can you believe? And again, not knowing, sometimes most of these conversations, you don't even know what the basis of the person's perspective is, like where they're coming from, because you're talking about somebody, not even to that person. But once you realize that you're left feeling with nothing afterwards, even the people around you, especially if you're a conscious individual who kind of doesn't give them any you don't give them any dopamine in return. Like you don't give them any food to turn into dopamine. Eventually their withdrawal of not getting it goes away. And they start to it's like any other withdrawal you go through. You go through a caffeine withdrawal, nicotine withdrawal, right? There's all withdrawals. Eventually you're going to go through a withdrawal where you're going to be like, but come on, give me something. Well, let's talk about anything. Eventually that goes away, and the people are like, yeah, it's like those conversations aren't important anymore. And you realize, I wonder why. Like what's changed? Because you're not getting that fix anymore from that gossiping, and that your mind, not you, your mind isn't getting that fix. So it evolves your mind. It's like an AI that keeps learning. It learns, okay, we're not getting it here. This isn't important anymore. So now your awareness, which saw that and allowed you to not engage, and you made the choice on engage because you're aware enough, eventually your mind catches up and goes, well, this isn't important. No more dopamine here. No more good feeling here. And it starts paying attention to want to going there. That's the awareness isn't doing that. The awareness is what allows you to choose to put better inputs into your computer. So where that computer now processes things differently. You're creating new neural pathways. Like your mind, instead of going, conversation, this is it. This neural pathway lights up, right to complain. Yeah. Now, whoa, this other branch starts to form, and it bypasses it eventually. Not to say that one in the middle, because that road is always there, doesn't want to pulse once in a while. Sure, it's going to want to. And that's where your awareness and that presence behind it all kind of says, well, that's not where I want to be. I want to be here instead. Even though this is the funny part. And I was thinking about this yesterday too, when I was reading a book. Even though the conscious choice doesn't feel good. Like there's no dopamine fix, right? There's no good feeling there, but I still want to be there. Because I know that good feeling goes away. Like, because I know that negativity, which is going to get me charged up or whatever, goes away, and I'm left feeling empty. Here, I always feel whole. Even though there's no good feeling, there's no bad feeling, good and bad, right? They're all opinions, but there's almost no feeling here. I just am, and I'm whole the whole time. So I don't want to go here, even though if I go here, oh man, my ego's like, yeah, it's a great conversation. We can get into it, and it's gonna give you my blood's gonna get pumping, and I'm gonna be like, oh, let's go. And once it's over, I'm gonna be like, what the fuck did I do again? Like, ugh, I hate this.
Yeah.
So it's funny, man. It's like saying no. It's like saying no to the candy, knowing that there's no candy on the other side. But the no candy is where you want to be. Is where I want to be, at least.
Yeah, you reminded me. That whole thing was just reminding me of what we spoke about months ago, where you said don't give the other person the plug to plug into, the jack to plug into. They're walking around with their plug,
yeah,
and you're like, oh, here
plug
you go, right here, plug it in right here. Yeah,
yeah. Go ahead.
If you don't be that jack for that plug, that speaker won't sound. That speaker won't, that radio will just be muted, and there won't be any of that negativity. But
No, absolutely.
if you're the first person that says, when they come at you, be like, oh, did you see whatever is with another, a new dumped his wife, is with another woman, and then no jack, plug is not going in.
And it's on that person to not want to try to find another jack, and they'll keep trying to plug it in somewhere. So I mean, getting back to what you were originally talking about at the beginning of the show, it's an odd place to be in. It definitely is. But at the end of the day, if you just anchor in that peace and that tranquility behind all that thinking of why these people aren't engaging with me, or are these relationships, they're not getting strained. You think they're getting strained. Only reason you think that they're not the same, the relationships, is because you're not engaging in that unconscious conversation. Nothing's really changed as far as your relationship with that person. It's just that part of it's not there anymore. Now, the really, 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 I call them what will be a fake friend or a fake person, they're going to disappear from your life. They probably will. Because now, without that, there's nothing else for them. Without that plug, there's zero for them. So without that complaining or whatever it might be, kind of toxic kind of thinking all the time, or these conversations that are just endless and pointless, without that, they're like, well, I have no use for him. And they might not say that out loud, but they're not saying that out loud at all. Actually.
Yeah, they might not even know.
They don't even know. They just stop calling Henry now for 6 months at a time. And if they see you in the street, hey, buddy, what's up? How you been? How's everything? And I bet you they go right into it. Did you hear? Did you hear? Yeah. Okay. And that's it. And then it might be another. And until you run into them, like you might see why this person never reaches out, because there's no need for them to reach out. In other words, they know that you're a blank wall without an outlet. So where am I going to fucking plug into? And then again, it's not that they're doing it maliciously. They're doing it because their ego and that part of their mind is like, don't call Henry because there's nothing there for you right now. Okay. So we call him instead. And that's all it is, But the people who are important to you and care about you, and there really is like love there, means we love somebody for their faults. They're there still. The conversations might feel weird for a while, but that, I think with practice, that does, Eckhart Tolle had a big conversation about this too once, where he said, because you learn how to adapt to that and you bring consciousness into that conversation. Even if it's an unconscious topic, you could bring consciousness into it with your answers, where you don't have to engage, but you can answer the person, where they get an answer and okay, they see that there's nothing else there and the conversation just kind of drops wayside.
Yeah. No, and also when you're describing these different types of people, I think every individual human has different levels of natural mindfulness. Like there are some people that are completely blind to consciousness. And then there are some people that are about 10, 15%. You don't like, for example, like you obviously, went to therapy and learned a lot about, let's say everything you did. I mean, so, but if you recall, before you started therapy, I had done therapy some years back, but like, yeah, I talk about stupid, like a typical psychologist who doesn't know you, who at the end of the day, I picked up that he really didn't really care either. He's just there to hear me bitch and complain and then, write me a script for an antidepressant and then say, oh, your hour's up. All right. I'll see you next time. But when we spoke, as you rewind and think back of what we spoke about and how we spoke, you can sense there was some innate mindfulness in me.
In you, which is why I was attracted. Well, I mean, you're a good looking guy, but why I was attracted to you as a person, out of all the people on our, and I loved everybody we hung out with back then, but out of all of them, there was one person I would call when I was in distress. It was always you. I didn't know back then why, but there was something about you that something in me kept going, this is where we want to actually plug out. Like, this is where we want to try to tap into to see if there's something here. Like, there was an energy that was pulling me towards you. I had no idea what it was back then. Zero.
So what I'm trying to say there is that, there are different levels, different innate levels, or just let's say, already encoded in different people. And so that person you were describing before, that person will like, dump you, lose you because you're no longer giving them what they want in that
Yeah,
gossipy,
yeah, yeah.
complainy world.
Hmm.
So those people are truly, I think, truly, 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 void of any consciousness. And it's really, it's tough to even go through. I mean, I guess they do go through life and no problem, but it's tough. It's like a complete void of consciousness. Just it's all
A lot of it, a lot
yeah.
of it is how you brought up, right? A lot of it is actually, I would say, for people who aren't thrust into it or don't practice it or haven't found that awareness is there yet, and they don't have any level of mindfulness. It's just their upbringing where it was never, not even on a base level, ever either spoken about or nurtured at all, and they are just, you know, hook, line, and sinker. This, my mind says I do. There's no helicopter view. It's ground level only. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what we see. We see only we only see here. That's it. There's not, we have no peripheral vision. All we see is what we see. All we know is what we know. And that's it. And a lot of that is just how people are brought up. Actually, I told you I was reading that book before the show.
Yeah.
That Michael Acosta sent me.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you talk about this today. So one of the things I kind of copied yesterday, because I said maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow. It was part of the first chapter. So there was a little paragraph. I'll read it. Some people are tired of practice, but practice should not be considered a dirty word. Self-inquiry is also a practice of sorts. Especially in the beginning, it requires steady determination, commitment, and a sense of responsibility to your own self. However, such practice is not felt as a burden, but rather a way to keep your witnessing fresh. So what you were saying before, how it felt like you were getting dissuaded. So the practice, like, because you're continually practicing. So the practice isn't a chore, and it starts to feel like a chore when people around you aren't engaging in it.
Good.
But it's not a chore. It's actually a practice in you keeping your awareness. He says witnessing in this book, but it's awareness, your mindfulness, your presence fresh. And that's all it is. That's all it's ever about. Then the mind comes in and wants to create stories to why things have to be a certain way. But really, at the end of the day, all it's about, Henry, is you being able to watch what's happening in your mind, or me watching what's in my mind, or somebody we care about watching what's in their mind and their emotions and their behaviors, and not just, unconsciously going it. So I thought that paragraph was kind of tied into exactly what you were saying, where the practice starts to feel like a chore because the people around you aren't practicing with you. But the practice isn't for them. The practice is for you, and your practice then can enlighten, can affect them. So the practice isn't for them. Remember, we always said it. In a plane, who puts the oxygen mask on first? You do, not the person next to you. I put the mask on because I need to breathe. Then I can help you. So I practice mindfulness because I want to be in this space.
Yeah.
Then if you come along with me, that's great.
I just realized just now clicked. So I didn't give the I didn't give the jack for the other person to plug in. And what's probably going on with me is that nobody's giving me a jack for me to plug in.
Yeah, but you really don't need so if you're mindfulness, you really don't need a jack.
No, you don't need it, but that's
you're
probably.
But the years of, trained behavioral thinking, your old mind patterns, sure, they're going to keep showing up. They don't go away. Just because an alcoholic goes to AA and gets, and gets on the wagon, off the wagon, I always forget, whatever.
Yeah, on the wagon.
On the wagon, right? Doesn't mean that they don't have an urge to want to have a drink again, because that addiction was there. It means that now they're aware that addiction is there, and they could choose not to engage it because they know what the consequences of engaging it can be. That's all it is. And once you realize that, you don't need things to be a certain way anymore. Even with people around you, yes, ideally it would be great, right? Of course. Like, I love these conversations in this podcast because I'm able to speak with somebody who's on the same path. So there's a common language we speak. There's a common mindset. that we have. So it's nice, sure. But it's that could easily become an addiction also, where the mind can be like, oh, this is great, this is great, this is, I need to read more about this. I want to know more about this, and you get lost in wanting to know more, and you lose contact with what it's all about. It's just watching it all happen and realizing that this on the outside, yes, it's life, but it's our experience of what life is. We are life. We just experience.
That the amigo always comes back, always creeps up from behind the bushes.
Sure. As long as you're human, it's going to be there. If you ever become divine, let me know. Then we could talk. But
well, that one time I was floating, I just didn't realize what it was. I was floating.
That's fine.
Nah, it's beautiful, John.
No, that was a great question, because that's something that I know I went through, and I know a lot of people on those group chats that I was in with, different Eckhart Tolle groups in the beginning. A lot of people would say the same thing. Like, people talking, there was people who were, I'm going to leave my wife, I'm going to leave my family.
Oh, wow.
I'm going to go to a but even then, that sounds tragic. But for that person, there was this urge and this want to be in a serene environment. And again, we don't know what it's like for them at home. We don't know how unconscious people are. But like, there were a couple of cases of people would say, I think I need to leave my family. And even a spiritual teacher will tell you, listen, we're not going to tell you to leave your family. We're not going to tell you not to leave your family. We're going to tell you, you need to do what you feel is best for you and for your presence and your consciousness. Now, again, the situation dictates what it dictates, depending on nobody knows what's going on in that person's life. So it's hard for anybody to really have any kind of a solid opinion on it or advice on it. But that person might feel that they need to do that. So there's even an extreme there, right? So,
yep.
But I heard it so much, and a lot of people would just say, it's you adapt to it. You learn to have conversations from a different place with people who aren't there yet, who aren't there at all. And the caveat was always, are they toxic or are they just unconscious? Toxic is different. Toxic is somebody's trying to manipulate you, right? That's when you realize that, then it's like, peace out. I'm taking my toys and I'm leaving. Bye.
Yep. That's a good differentiation. Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Beautiful. I like it. Thank you, John.
No, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Hi, bye, whatever, whoever's watching out there. Oh, we hit 1,000 downloads this week.
I was going to tell you, yeah.
We hit 1,000 downloads.
Yeah. We got
it's a nice little accomplishment for us.
We got a dopamine drip right there.
Yeah, it's a nice little accomplishment, It means those 4 people continue coming back every week.
Hey. Welcome. And next time you come back and listen, we'll have a cigar and espresso together.
We really should do. We should do. We should do one outside one day.
We should. Absolutely. I've been thinking about
the porch, smoking a couple cigars.
I like it.
Or maybe from a coffee shop.
Well, that's gonna be probably too noisy. And you know what? Maybe we should. And everybody's gonna look at us, and be like, "Hey, come on, join us."
Sit down.
Boom. Yeah, you never know. I like it.
Yeah. So we'll see.
We're going on the road.
We're going to take it.
The universal lens,
like a circus. It's going to be like a circus.
The universal lens from St. Louis. The universal lens from Michigan.
from the McDonald's bathroom on I-95. I don't think we're going to be booking any venues.
When are we going to go to the universal lens Key West?
Oh,
Bahamas.
That'd be nice. Jamaica.
Hey, that's where I was born. As you learned today. Sounds good, brother, man.
Anything else?
I think we've bored everybody enough, bro. I think we've been at this almost 15 minutes here.
15 minutes. We're good. Yeah, it's good. It's about par. We're never going to do a 30-minute show. I've come to that conclusion. So just deal with it, peeps. We are when we are.
Yeah, man, we got to take the show on the road. I like that idea.
We can. I don't know where we're going to go, but we can. We'll see. We'll talk about it.
We'll start with the outdoor one first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, live from Thompson Park.
You're not going to get Wi-Fi in Thompson Park.
I got it. My portable desk, my portable office.
Yeah,
I got it.
There'd be enough bandwidth to support us.
It's pretty damn good. Yeah. Pretty damn good. The only thing we're gonna need is to have a car Yeah, to have a car nearby for the power.
Yeah, I have my car. My car's a big battery. We can plug into it.
Then I think we're rolling. I think we're good.
Yeah. All
We
right.
should try it. Well, we'll try the
Coming
backyard.
soon, the Universal Lens from Thompson Park. Permits permitting. We have to get permits. Might be a few weeks, peeps. All right.
We'll interview a little bird out there.
Okay. Sure. Why not? Squirrel, nut, whatever. Okay. They were good.
We got to come in for a landing.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening again to our lovely show and watching our pretty faces. I hope everybody's enjoying the video aspect of this. I know it's more work for me, but at the end of the day, as long as everybody's happy and enjoying it, it's all good. So yeah, let's take this baby in and get everybody on their way. And everybody, I know you're not going to hear this on Father's Day, but any fathers out there, thank you for being great role models for your children. Thank you for being supporters of your family. Thank you for being just gentlemen in general, and thank you for being a presence in your family's life. I know as a boy growing up in Brooklyn, my father was a very powerful individual as far as persona was, but he was always, he was the rock for our family. So it's as a young boy or a young girl growing up in a family, I know it's important, as important as to have a mother, obviously, and a solid mother. We've 110%. It's nice to have that presence of not just a male figure in your family, but a male figure who actually loves, cares, and devotes his life to his family, right? Whether it's a father through marriage or a father, in another way, just a role model. So it's always nice to have. So if you could affect a young child's life in that way, somebody who maybe doesn't have that figure father figure, see if you could interject yourself into that life and kind of give that kid a little bit of guidance. So with that,
Well said.
happy Father's Day, and let's do what we do. All right. So everybody, however you are, seated, standing, as long as you're not upside down, and yes, that would work too. Let's start by taking some deep breaths and start slow that mind stream down. We know that the mind likes to, be active, especially after conversations like that. So let's start by taking those breaths in and out. If you want to hold for 2 to 3 seconds or 4 seconds, whatever works for you, and then exhale for the same interval. And continue that pattern going, and just watch and pay attention to anything that's happening in your mind. Notice everything. Don't engage it. No need to judge it. Doesn't matter what the thought is, what the image is. Just notice that it's there and come back to your breath. Pay attention to that silence if that's what you hear. Just anchor in it. Watch it. Feel any tension anywhere in your body. Find it and release it. Again, no judgment. Just noticing. Any thoughts that are flying through, any emotions you might feel, find that emotion, see it, become aware of it. Doesn't matter if it's an emotion of anger, jealousy, whatever it is, allow it to be there and just watch it and see how it dissipates quickly. If we don't try to hold on to it, it will pass. Keep breathing. Let's take a couple of more. Last one. Slowly open your eyes. Oh, and we are back. All right. Think we're good? All right, everybody. Peace out. Happy Father's Day. Love to all. And we'll see you next time.
We done good.
All right, man. Everybody.
See you guys.
Take care. The insights and discussions that we speak about on our show are our own opinions and based on our life experiences. If you or someone in your family or someone you know is suffering and in need of help, please get them that help through medical attention or seeking proper therapy. Again, what we speak about are based on our experiences and not intended to be taken as a form of therapy. Thank you.